June 4, 1942, Petty Officer First Class Tadayoshi Koga, aged 19, is at the controls of a Mitsubishi A6M2, more famously known as the Zero, the outstanding Japanese fighter aircraft of the early war years. The Zero was greatly feared by the Allies, outclassing most of the aircraft it met in combat, and exploding the widely held myth that the Japanese couldn't produce planes or pilots capable of challenging the white colonial powers in Asia. 2 months earlier, in the skies over the British colony of Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, 36 Zeros had fought 60 RAF fighters. For the loss of a single Zero, the Japanese had shot down 27 British aircraft. The British and Americans wanted to get their hands on an intact Zero to test and evaluate it, but thus far no opportunity had presented itself. As Japan pushed out its imperial defense perimeter after bombing Pearl Harbor and conquering Burma, French Indochina, Malaya and the Philippines, and a host of Pacific islands, the Japanese actually attacked sovereign U.S. territory, striking at the Aleutian Islands off Alaska in June 1942. The cold, windswept and inhospitable chain of 120 islands pushes 1,000 miles out into the North Pacific off Alaska. The attack was probably made to divert U.S. attention, as the main Japanese assault was made on Midway, where the Imperial Japanese Navy planned to completely destroy the U.S. Navy's carrier force that they had missed at Pearl Harbor in December 1941. The U.S. base at Dutch Harbor on the Aleutian island of Unalaska was targeted by Japanese Zeros on the 4th of June. Plunging through a cold fog, Koga and his 2 wingmen strafed the base, but Koga's Zero was hit by ground fire that severed the engine's oil feed. With oil draining from his engine, Koga could not make it back to his aircraft carrier. Heading for Akutan Island, a designated Japanese emergency airfield, Koga lined up for a landing on the grass strip. The young pilot knew that lying off Akutan Island was a Japanese submarine, waiting to pick up any aircrew who had been shot down. But as Koga Zero landed, the grass strip, boggy with heavy rain, caused his landing gear to dig in, flipping the Zero onto its back, Koga snapping his neck and dying in the process. The other Zeros circled overhead, unsure of Koga's fate. They didn't follow orders and shoot up the down Zero, a major mistake. For over a month, the Zero lay abandoned on the landing strip until a U.S. Navy patrol plane, which was lost, spotted it on the 10th of July 1942. The PBY Catalina's captain reported the Zero's position. The next day, the PBY returned with a small recovery team. Koga's body was recovered from the Zero, searched for any intelligence material, and then buried in a shallow grave close by. Retreating to Dutch Harbor, they reported that the Zero could be salvaged. On the 12th of July, another team arrived to salvage the Zero. They reburied the Japanese pilot, but a lack of heavy equipment meant they couldn't salvage the plane. 3 days later, another recovery team arrived with the correct equipment this time. The Zero was extracted from the mud, placed onto a barge, and shipped to Dutch Harbor. Here it was carefully righted and then cleaned. Next, the damaged Zero was put aboard the USS St. Mihiel, arriving in Seattle on the 1st of August. Next, it was shipped by barge to San Diego. Mechanics straightened the vertical stabilizer, rudder, wingtips, flaps, and canopy. The badly damaged landing struts were rebuilt and the propeller reconditioned. Next, Japanese rising sun markings were painted out and replaced with US markings, and the Zero placed under a heavy guard to prevent anyone trying to steal souvenirs from it. Incredibly, the Zero took to the air again on the 20th of September 1942. Lieutenant Commander Eddie Sanders flew the Zero 24 times, carefully evaluating its performance and mechanics. Most importantly, Sanders' tests exposed certain weaknesses that Allied pilots could exploit to defeat the type in combat. Sanders noted that the Zero's ailerons froze at speeds over 200 knots, making rolling maneuvers much more difficult. The Zero was found to roll to the left easier than to the right. The engine cut out under negative acceleration due to its float-type carburetor. These weaknesses would be brutally exploited by Allied pilots.
What a mistake that baby made. Suddenly it was right in my sight. It was a hell of an explosion and... well, I guess that's all, sir.
Then, in 1943, the Zero was placed on public display at Washington National Airport. In 1944, it was under test again, this time helping green pilots dogfighting Zeros, and a second Zero captured on Guam by the Americans was also utilized. The technical secrets the Akutan Zero gave up undoubtedly saved Allied pilots' lives. In February 1945, the Akutan Zero was destroyed when, during takeoff, an out-of-control Curtiss Helldiver rammed it. A few pieces remain in U.S. museums today. By the last years of the war, the Zero was completely outclassed by the latest Allied types, many ending their days as kamikaze aircraft. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.